Hi everyone. The article I am sharing with you today is based on a video from a popular YouTuber named Wang Jian. The topic is why Chinese civilization fell behind the world. Wang Jian said, "This is a huge and complex topic. Chinese civilization has not only fallen behind in modern times, but had already lagged behind globally much earlier." A while ago, someone raised this question in the Zhihu magazine: what would the world lose without Chinese civilization? This question was later quoted on Twitter and sparked a heated discussion. Some people said the answer was nothing at all. Let's go back to the history a bit. In 1840, when China's doors were opened, the Chinese were shocked to discover that the world had developed so powerfully without China's participation. And then, 138 years later, in 1978, when China opened up again, the Chinese were once more shocked to see that the world had developed even more, still without the participation of China. Let's start with the story of Li Hongzhang's official visit to the United States of America in 1896. Li Hongzhang was a Chinese statesman, general, and diplomat of the late Qing dynasty, served in important positions in the Qing imperial court. He was best known in the West for his generally pro-modern stance and importance as a negotiator. In this trip to the United States, he was representing the modern China. On August 28, 1896, Li, on board of the St. Louis ship, arrived in New York. He was received with unprecedented honors, red carpets, cannon salutes, and meetings with the U.S. President Cleveland and other high officials. Dressed in formal attire, a yellow robe, and official coat, he saw New York's skyscrapers, fast-moving cars, a subway system that had already operated for decades, as well as telephones, flush toilets, even elevators. What he saw was the prosperity of modern civilization and the thriving Western world. On the morning of September 2nd, Li was interviewed at the Waldorf Hotel by the New York Times. He appeared open-minded and appropriate. He was warmly received. However, Li seemed heavy-hearted and shocked. Reportedly, Li returned to Beijing in silence. At that time, Beijing, an ancient capital, was nothing like New York. The Forbidden City had 8,704 rooms, but not a single toilet. No sewage system. Beijing, the capital, had no public restrooms, no drainage, and no proper roads. Streets were filled with people, sedans, carriages, donkeys, horses, all chaotic. In contrast, ancient Rome had developed public toilets as early as the Roman Empire. 600 BC, Rome built the world's first urban sewage system, called Cloaca Maxima. It drained waste from the Roman Forum to the Tiber River. Rome was the largest city in the world at that time. In 1848, Britain passed the Public Health Act, requiring new homes to have flush toilets, which spread quickly. The flush toilet was actually invented in the 16th century by Englishman John Harrington. Public restrooms were crucial. In Beijing, however, horse and donkey dung, even human waste, lined the streets. Shall we now go back to the interview and find out what Li Hongzhang said to the New York Times in 1896? Apparently, the interview lasted 30 minutes. Li was friendly throughout, listening with a smile, answering sincerely like an ordinary citizen rather than a high official. His every word and action represented China. He was asked, among the things Your Excellency has seen in this country, what has interested you most? Li Hongzhang replied, I am delighted with everything that I have seen in America. Everything has pleased me so much that it is hard to say what has pleased me most. What has surprised me most has been the tall buildings of 20 and more stories. I have never seen anything like them before, in China or in Europe. They seem so well constructed that they would resist any wind perhaps, but we could not put them up in China because the typhoon would soon blow them down. They would be terribly inconvenient were it not for your fine elevators. The reporters then asked, Does Your Excellency favor the education of women? Li Hongzhang paused for a moment and answered cautiously. Our Chinese girls are educated at home by their governesses. Governesses are in all families that can afford them. We have no public schools for the girls and have no higher educational institutions which they can attend. This is due to the fact that our customs are so different from yours, both in Europe and America. Perhaps we should study both systems and adopt the one best suited to us and our needs. The reporters also asked, Is there any desirable outlet for the investment of American capital in China? Li Hongzhang replied, Wealth can be produced only by the combination of money, labor, and land, and the Chinese government will very gladly welcome any capital that seeks investment in the empire. We will be glad to have your capital investment in China. The capital and skilled labor could be supplied by you, but the administration of the affairs of the railways, telegraph lines, and etc. would have to be controlled by China. We must maintain our sovereign rights and never allow anybody to touch our sacred privileges. Li said, This is the advice from General Grant, one of my best friends. Finally, he said, all capitalists, whether American or European, can freely invest their money in enterprises in China. Li Hongzhang was also asked, Would Your Excellency favor the introduction into China of the newspaper as developed in this country and in Europe? Li Hongzhang also gave a very honest reply. There are newspapers in China, but the Chinese editors unfortunately do not tell the truth. They do not, as your papers, tell the truth. The editors in China are great economizers of the truth. They tell only a part of it. That is why we don't have great newspapers capable of leading civilizational progress. The New York Times described Li Hongzhang's demeanor as calm and composed. He was, however, expressionless, showing nothing of his inner thoughts. This interview reminds me of our Premier Zhu Rongji's visit to the U.S. in 1999. Before the visit, Zhu said, The Americans are angry. I'll calm them down. He was referring to the 1989 Tiananmen students' protest and the Chinese government's repression, which shocked the whole world. During the visit, Zhu Rongji privately visited the White House. The main topic was China's WTO accession. Zhu asked Clinton, If I agree to all your conditions, would you approve China joining the WTO? Clinton replied that the political atmosphere in the U.S. at the time wouldn't allow it. Zhu returned empty-handed. A year later, in 2000, China and the US finally reached an agreement and China joined the WTO. Looking back, Li Hongzhang's visit and Zhu Rongji's visit are not comparable. Li's sincerity and openness were unmatched. You must understand, this was the first time a Chinese saw the world from this perspective. You can imagine Li's inner shock. Zhu simply couldn't compare. However, Zhu's visit showed the CCP could be very flexible when it comes to gaining political advantages. And the CCP is hungry for material benefit. As for Li Hongzhang, a high official of the Qing Empire, what he saw in America was the contrast between backwardness and civilization. What we can take from the two visits is China has not only recently fallen behind. Chinese civilization has long lagged behind the West. Now, I want you to look at a pivotal year, 1776, when three world-changing events happened. Number 1. In July 4th, 1776, the Continental Congress in Philadelphia passed the Declaration of Independence. It stated, "We hold this truth to be self-evident that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Also in 1776, James Watt invented the steam engine, making Britain's entry into industrial production and launching the Industrial Revolution. That was the beginning of human modernization. The same year, Adam Smith published The Wealth of Nations, which is the foundation of modern economics. And in 1776, what happened in China? Three major events. Number 1. Emperor Qianlong ordered the restoration of titles for Ming officials who had died for the Ming Empire to promote loyalty, trying to show that even loyalty to a past dynasty was deemed worthy of praise. The second event, Qianlong ordered the destruction of books that criticized the Qing governments. Officials were gathering the suitable classics. Those approved ones were included, others were reviewed for seditious content and destroyed. That was a cultural disaster. In Zhejiang province alone, 538 titles totaling over 10,000 volumes were destroyed. In Qianlong's reign alone, over 700,000 volumes were burned. China's rulers have long been champions of literary prosecution. That is the cultural environment of Chinese civilization. Another event also in 1776 in China, that is the campaign against the Jingchuan tribes, concluded after 5 years. The Qing army crushed them. In the year of 1776, comparing the three significant events happened in the West and the three significant events happened in China, we can clearly see the progress of Western civilization, while the Chinese emperors are mainly focusing on consolidating their powers. Throughout Chinese history, rulers have either expanded territory or tightened control. That endless pursuit of power is the root cause of China's lagging behind the world.
Thank you for watching the pick of the world's best thinking channel. I will see you again in the next program.